Welcome back to the last word on rugby. We are cutting straight through the noise and we are diving into this weekend's biggest controversies, the red cards and the inconsistency that goes with dishing those cards out when it comes to head contact. And a lot of people will feel that it's the color of your jersey and the hemisphere that you come from that ultimately decides what shade of red, whether it's the yellow or the orange one that gives you what 20 minutes in the sin bin, and your team is allowed to replace you to get themselves back to a full complement of 15, or if it's the, must I say, blush red or red. Oh, wait, this shirt here, this my shirt says it all. Whether it's that kind of red and your team is down to 14 men for almost 70 minutes, a repeat for the box of almost an exact repeat of what happened
Mm.
against France. It happened against Italy. They had to play with 14 players. And lo and behold, after disciplinary hearing, that card was turned into a banana yellow, and that means the match officials, they slipped on
Mm.
that banana peel, and they made a mistake. But will you get a reaction from them, from their bosses about that mistake? No. Crickets.
Yeah.
If you haven't yet, click that like button, subscribe to our channel at the Clutch ZA. We are going straight for the jugular here, and hopefully there's a lot of red coming from this discussion. Mike, what did you make of all of this? We are going to touch on some other games as well,
Yeah.
but firstly, the Springbok one.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying in your intro that it looks like South Africa's targeted. It possibly could be, but what I liked, if you like, was that the fallout came from all over the world about the Franco red card following so hard on the heels of the Lut. I mean, you had New Zealanders, Sir John Kerwin, you had All Black legend Jeff Wilson absolutely condemning it. Eddie Jones, not always a friend of South Africa, calling it absurd. Um, I mean, obviously, our guys, Victor Matfield, had quite a lot to say, but lots of people all around the world have kind of reached a point where I think that Franco red card was the straw that broke the camel's back with this outrageous inconsistency and heavy-handedness. And I think it's also important that we just give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of context to what has happened here with all these cards. World Rugby is being sued by a large group of former players who have problems like the early onset of dementia. There's also the speculation that the players who have got motor neuron disease,
Yeah, yeah.
it could be linked to head knocks. So I can understand why World Rugby is under enormous pressure to do something that is going to limit head knocks. And that's commendable and good. But what they've done is they've overcompensated. They've
Mm.
overcorrected. And they've now, look, I mean, rugby, it's such a physical game that every part of your body is going to be touched at some stage in the in the
You're going
free
to take
fall
knocks,
game of
yeah.
rugby. It, and so they have overcompensated, and they've actually put referees now under huge pressure
Mm.
now to be seen to be making decisions because they get judged now. World Rugby saying we've got this clampdown on, but you didn't do anything about that knock. Um, yeah, so that is my real problem is that there's been overcompensation, and then the referees now. I mean, what is the point of a bunker review system if you don't use it? Sorry, I'm getting a bit carried away. My last point is I think. One of the things I've picked up is that the refereeing team, that team of officials, there's I don't know how many, two or three TMOs and bunker guys and refs and touch judges. There's quite a squad of them, and I've found that when one of them, be it the referee or that someone says, "This is what happened," um, it gives a decision, gives a judgment.
Yeah.
All of them
The,
just say, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
others
yeah.
go
No,
along.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
You never see any of them actually overturn what the
Mm.
guy who's made a strong point has said. They don't seem
Yeah.
to have the courage or the strength to say, no, hang on,
Hang
that's
tight. Yeah.
not
Whoa.
correct. They all just go with like sheep with what the main guy said.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah,
John,
no, I think you're right, Mike. I think the only instance where we saw one of the ARs challenging the ref was in the Lode de Jager case, where the Georgian assistant referee, because the ref wanted to give a yellow, send Lode to the bunker.
Yeah.
And then the Georgian referee overturned and said, "Look, that is
Mm,
malice, that is intent." That was the only time, but I totally agree with you. It's like five guys have to come to the conclusion that that is a red. And are you telling me that all five of them saw that as a straight red card from all the angles that were shown, the
mm,
mitigation, and that is why the bunker yellow card has come in to because for these blatant sort of mistakes, so that the team isn't punished for a mistake. But now we've seen it now for 2 weeks in a row where
mm,
five guys basically deliberate for like 5 minutes. And that's 5 minutes of our time as rugby watchers that
mm,
we're not going to get back ever. And they still get to the wrong decision. And that
yeah.
is the biggest problem for me. And I think one of the other gripe I have is with the host broadcasters. And I think we've seen it last
mm,
week in
mm,
Paris. We've seen it in Italy, where they show that thing 10 times
Yeah.
to the point where you actually know we need to give a red here. And we saw it in Italy where when when it went against the box and there was maybe a high charge on Sia, which there was, that was shown once or twice and never again.
Mm.
While the mustard one was shown about, I actually need to go and count, but it could have been more than 10 times where
Absolutely.
which was shown,
Mm,
and which obviously the crowd gets involved as well. Every time a show and the heat goes,
mm.
ah, wow,
Yeah.
irritates the left.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. And the worst thing now is on a Wednesday it comes out that Franco
Mm,
Mostert's red card has been rescinded. It's downgraded to a yellow. And you know what I've been looking at that incident over and over now, and the way the TMO speaks to the referee on the incident itself. And I don't know if it's just a coincidence or if really, but I'm gonna highlight a couple of instances too where the TMO absolutely intervened in things that went against the Springboks, calls that should have gone against the Springboks, or should have gone for the Springboks. He never intervened. I mean that tackle in the air on Kainan Moody. There's a Italian guy kind of jumping for the ball. An Italian guy gets under him, tackles him. The call comes through. They were both going for the ball. It's insanity, insanity.
yeah.
The drop
Yeah.
goal of Andre Pollard, guys. The drop
Yeah.
goal of Andre Pollard.
That was
It's through the
ridiculous.
poles. There's the Italian captain, number 13, runs to charge down, but as he runs, he shoves out his forearm, he hits Volkulo in the head, and then he goes down like a Serie A
Mm,
footballer. And the drop goal is cancelled
yeah.
out, but there was offside, so
And the
Andre could kick
penalty.
the three
Mm,
points through the dingers. Meanwhile,
yeah.
Sia Kolisi got so upset with all the TMO calls coming
Yeah.
against his team that he actually started speaking to referee
Yeah.
James Dolman about just what the heck is going on? Because
Yeah,
there
Yeah.
is a looks like a one-eyed Frenchman who's the TMO, and
Yeah.
no wonder the Box beat France last weekend. What was
Yeah.
he doing in that seat?
And Leighton, if I can just add on to what you're saying about the non-decisions. So just going back to Franco Mostert, the group of five are saying head-to-head contact. So if there's head-to-head contact, surely immediately Garbisi must have gone off for a
HIA.
head impact assessment. But why
second week
didn't
in
he?
a row. Second week
They've
in a row.
just they've just said he's got head-to-head contact. The poor guy. Yeah, look, but no, he's fine. He carries on playing. I don't know.
Yeah,
The red cards, the red cards always were for premeditated thuggery. When a
Yeah.
guy
yeah,
does something absolutely vicious, and now
yeah,
you're
Yeah.
getting permanent red cards for iffy things that.
yeah,
Oh, and the thing I really just want to get to as well, Leighton, you're talking about how non-decisions that, the Franco thing. There is a ripple effect of and how it affects the players in the squad. Now, there's guys playing for their careers. Franco is one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a rare start for him. Now
yeah.
he's off after 11 minutes. He would have valued as much of that 80 as possible to state a
Yeah.
case to the coaching staff that he's still got it. What
Hmm.
about Ben Jason Dixon making a comeback
Yeah,
to the box?
Yeah.
I mean, impacts people's careers when they get things
Zachary
wrong.
Porton
Sacrificed
starting
after
a big
19 minutes.
test. That's
It's really wrong that these guys suffer because of pathetic decisions.
And what
yeah,
happens, and what is now going to happen to those guys with the red card being rescinded? What is now going to happen to the referee, the TMO, the ARs
yeah.
for that poor decision? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot. While it's a one-off test match, but there's a lot to play for. If the Box lost to Italy, their world ranking points would have plummeted. And that would have
Yeah.
affected their World Cup draw in December,
Yeah,
where they could have finished the year maybe, on top, but if they've lost that game, they could have fallen to third place. So
Yeah.
it's unbelievable that these bad decisions could have great consequences. So
mm,
something needs to be done to these ARs, TMOs, and referees who get these things wrong because their actions have consequences.
exactly, exactly. And that is the only thing that that the broader rugby public is asking for. Give us some clarity on what happens to officials if they
Yeah.
do not perform accordingly. I mean, it's a high performance environment, like you mentioned now, John.
Mm.
If Mike, you also touched on it. If Ben Jason Dixon doesn't get a shot again for the rest of the year, he was robbed of playing time where he could have showed, yes, like I'm back from an injury, and I'm ready to stake a claim again for 2026 massive bot tests ahead of that in that year ahead of the World Cup. Zachary Porton, who the Boks are keen to develop because suddenly the tight head stocks with three most senior guys, they are nearing the end of their careers.
Mm.
So the rebuild needs to start as soon as possible. But because of that and having to alter their game plan and all of that, it's it's now tickets for them to show what they could have done. I mean, strongest team will play Ireland. I don't see them getting a shot against the Irish. So hopefully that Wales test, the last one
Mm.
brings something to them.
Because
Before
they
we,
can't get back what they've lost.
yeah,
The opportunity and the time is gone. You're gone. It's gone.
yeah. And what I also wanted to point out, guys, is it just didn't happen in the Bok game alone, but there were instances in other tests that I'm just gonna highlight a few. Japan lost. They barely lost. but they were down to 14 players. Um, a red card that curbed them. Now it's come,
Conceded a vital penalty.
yep. Now it's come down to, oh, whoa, the red card has been rescinded. Meanwhile, in Wales is Josh Adams, that clearly that thuggery Mike spoke about, red
Yeah.
cards for thuggery. He goes in shoulder first without wrapping. A guy's in a vulnerable position over the ball.
Mm.
Um, he knocks him in that ruck situation with the shoulder. Yes, 20-minute red card. They replaced him, and all was well. And that ended well for them. But that's the case of the thuggery, because there's no way that he was going to ever perform a always legal clean out by leading with a shoulder, tuck shoulder, making contact with the head area and all of that. That's a red card, straight red. Send him off. I see in Wales there's no sympathy for the actions of the winger. And rightly so, rightly so. Another example, guys, and this is where I'm gonna stop it now. Fiji played France, and there was a tackle made on a France player. The tackler, one of the tacklers got up and pilfered over the ball, and in comes a French number 17 from a distance with speed. He turns his shoulder and he absolutely racks that Fijian player out of the way. Fiji's captain asks the ref, please look at that. We need to have a look at that. What happens? Nothing. Where do we draw the line? Where do we stop? Or do coaches follow in the footsteps of Eddie Jones? And this is why I will always have a soft spot. This is why I will always have a soft spot
From
for
Eddie.
Eddie Jones. Yeah. Eddie is always welcome back here under Tabletop Mountain. But he has been asking and he's been questioning what is happening. And I fear more coaches and players will start doing that if something is not done.
No, for sure, because like I said, there's so much on the line these days in professional sport. And that's why we have technology. But I think the only thing that everybody wants is consistency. If
Consistency,
you
yes.
are consistent, nobody's going to moan about
Mm.
decisions because they know that is the precedent. That is what you can do.
Yeah,
This is not
100%.
allowed. So
Yeah.
if you have that consistency across the board, everybody would be okay with that.
And guys, technology, we have it. You're right, John. But technology is only good as the people who use it. And
That's true.
herein lies the problem. So
We've seen it in
we,
VAR and football. We've seen it
yeah.
with
So do these guys, we go back to an earlier point, do these guys who messed up with the Franco Mostert red card, are they held accountable? Well, we know that the referees, I'm not sure if it extends to touch judges and TMOs, they do have a panel of refs who watch them and you know, that's like
And
a
rate
report
them, yeah.
card
Mm.
that they get. And occasionally, I think it has happened that a referee's been demoted, you know, from top games, but it doesn't really seem to happen that often. Maybe because they haven't got a big enough pool
Yeah,
of refs.
to
But you
select from,
know,
yeah.
there is demotion. Maybe it should be execution. No, I'm joking. No,
It's
no,
interesting.
no.
Interesting you talking about refs, Mike, just off the point there. What has actually happened to South African refs? Because I
Yeah,
don't think we've got a single ref on the current elite panel of referees. We've got a couple of
Yeah.
TOs, but we don't have a single South African ref currently. I think
Mm,
Jaco Piper was the last one, and he's now with the Box, who was at the World Cup in 2023. So where are our
yeah.
refs in this?
mm.
Yeah,
Good
so
point.
South Africa, we do have a couple. Got an elite TMO. Marius van der Westhuizen. Um, he was actually officiating in one of the games this past weekend, and then there's obviously Aya Jacobs. Um, but yeah, this is actually a good topic for a lekker episode when things start to quiet down on the rugby front. What
Yeah, because
happened
remember,
to
we don't have a head of refs at the moment. I don't think that
we
purview fell under Rassie Erasmus when he was still director of rugby. But
yeah,
we
no,
don't currently, as it stands. I don't think we have a head of referees in this country.
there is a referees. They changed that position to a referees manager. So we
Okay.
do have Young Tolo Banks there. If I'm not mistaken, he is still there. But yeah, it's no more uh what did they call but Andre Watson, since Andre Watson left, I mean the referee just in South Africa took a plummet. But yeah, that's an interesting topic to discuss when we do have more time. For now, we're gonna cool it down a bit and take a
It's the
look
big
at
one. It's the
take a
big
look
one
at
this
the big
weekend.
one this weekend. Yeah, the big one. It's the Box versus Ireland. Remember last year, 1-1, a series drawn in South Africa. Box won in Pretoria. Ireland went to Durban and they won there with a drop goal, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken.
Yeah.
And it's 1-1 in that since the Box won the World Cup. Of course, the Irish fans clinging to, oh, we beat the Box at the World Cup, but that didn't count because they didn't make it past the quarters to face the Box in the final again. But guys, what do you make of this weekend's duel?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a wet one according to John.
Yeah,
Um,
somebody
you
sent
go,
me a
John.
somebody sent me a weather update. There's 9 degrees with 90% rain in Dublin on Saturday. So it's going to be a bun fight. Who does it favor? I think it's a great level of the weather always at the moment. So will that impact the decisions though about who's gonna play, who's not gonna play? I don't think it should impact any decision as far as the Boks are concerned. I think
Mm-mm.
the Boks, if they play their best team, i.e., most of the guys who ran out against France, and
Mm.
then I'm talking about the halfback combination of Kobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu. I think the Boks should still have the sort of the tools to play in any sort of weather conditions.
Yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't really matter. I mean, Sasha can play any kind of game. It's not, might still be some conservatives who say this game is made for Andre Pollard. I disagree. No, we've got Kobus and we've got Sasha there to run the show. Kobus' box kicking will be essential. I
Mm.
just think as well with all those rested forwards coming back, the Peter Steffs, the Earbuns, Malcolm Marks, we can play any conditions. That really doesn't matter. And I just think, the Springboks are all about ticking boxes. We know that Rassie likes to tick things as he goes along. There's almost nothing left to tick except beating Ireland and Dublin. So this Springbok team, 110% focused, ready, motivated. And this is a Springbok team that I feel, well, I believe, and I think everyone else will agree, is much better than the Springbok team that 18 months ago lost to Ireland and Durban. I think they've evolved significantly over the last 18 months, while I think Ireland have in fact regressed a bit. I know they had a strong win over the Wallabies, but yes, see, the Wallabies have fallen off a cliff. Um, so I think Ireland are not as good as they used to be. I think they have aged. I think that is a fair criticism that's doing the rounds, and I think the Springboks have improved. Eben said it in his media a couple of days ago that at the beginning of the year, when they saw the calendar and they saw Ireland and Dublin, immediately their interest was piqued, and they kind of put a circle around that one, and now it's arrived. I think the Springboks are going to be up for this one big time.
Yeah, and I think also, Mike, you spoke about them circling this test. They also circled the Eden Park game, and Eden Park was played in some. Excuse me, guys. Eden Park was played in similar conditions, so they would have taken a lot from how they
Good point.
started in that
Mm,
match going into the game in Dublin. And
mm.
rightly, as you said, Mike, this is Rassi's final frontier. This is the game he's been waiting for ever since that zombie reverberated around um that night in at
Start
the
de
World
France, yeah.
Out of France. He's been waiting for this. And I tell you what, these box are going to be fresh as well because he took the gamble, not really a gamble because we know Rassi doesn't gamble, but he made wholesale changes with this game sort of in full view, and he'll have a fresh Thomas de Toey, he'll have a fresh Malcolm Marx, he'll have a fresh Eben, who I think has also got a bit of a point to prove, may not have
Mm,
been at his very best so far this year, but we
yeah.
know Big Game Eben is a different beast. Pieter-Steph du Toit, I'm so glad he had a full rest. He was actually at the tennis also on the over this weekend, and I love that for him, that he had a liquor rest. So he can come in with his engine firing for the full 80 plus minutes. Jasper Wiese had the rest. So
Mm,
these guys will be chomping at the bit this week. And it's going to be very physical. We know that. One thing that could be in the back of their minds is always going to be that the targeting, maybe they feel that they're being targeted as far as the red
mm.
cards are concerned. But I don't think that is actually going to sort of change their approach. I think it's still going to be hell of a physical, and they're going to climb in.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that. The sentiments from both of you guys. It's going to be a tight contest this weekend. If it's raining, like John's informant says, it's going to be an even tighter contest amongst the forwards. So definitely thinking a 6-2 split.
Mm.
Um, and then just having the forwards do what they have been doing. Guys, I won't put you on the spot this week. I will I will just say Ireland's there for the taking. The box should know that. Like John said now, they have some rested players. It's another opportunity for Sasha Feinberg and Ngomezulu to step up in northern territories. And then hopefully the box can take Rassie Erasmus over the last frontier and give him his first victory in Dublin as the Bok head coach. Gents, thanks for joining again. It's been lovely. I know it was a short talk on the Bok game, but short and sweet. And then we tackled I think a bigger problem that needs addressing hopefully soon in World Rugby. John, Mike, thanks for joining. If you haven't yet, don't forget to click that like button, subscribe to our channel as we look to bring you the latest from the box as they head into the second last test of their November tour. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers, guys.